In this video, we're going to set up a base and a table inside of Airtable, as well as grab the necessary credentials that we need to add environment variables inside of our Next.js application. Now, if you want to follow this series from the beginning, make sure to go and watch part 1. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and come over to Airtable so that we can get set up with our backend for our app. So inside of Airtable, which is a free, you can sign up for Airtable for free. You can see I use this for lots of demos. It's great for these types of demos and is really, really useful and actually really powerful. So let's start by doing add a base, and we'll just start from scratch. So we're gonna build out our own base here. And base is basically what Airtable calls a database. So in this case, I'm gonna name this to do app, and you can choose colors and things to customize it. But once you create that, go ahead and click on your to do app. And then inside of here, you'll notice that this has table 1 is the name by default. I just want to click on this, right click on this and say rename table. And I'll just rename this to do. Now, in this case, my table and the actual base kind of line up. They're both about to do's. But if you have some sort of grouping for different tables, like if you go back to my examples, I use a lot of my examples under the same base of JAMstack demos. So you can kind of organize these things however you want. If you're just getting started with Airtable, you will need a base, and then you'll come in and rename your table. And then we will go ahead and customize the 3 different fields that we're going to have. So we're going to have 3 things: a description, a completed checkbox, and then a user ID for the user who created that item. So I'm going to right click on name here, and I'm going to customize this field type. I'm going to rename this to description. I like to make sure that these are lowercase. That way they're easier to reference inside of JavaScript. And then this will be just a single line of text. So that looks good there. And then we'll have notes. We will customize this. This will be the completed, and it will be a checkbox, which in here is also referred to as a checkbox. So there is that one. And then the last one is going to be the user ID, which is also a single line of text, basically just a string here. And you can start off by creating a couple of demo records that we can work with. So test to do number 1, is this completed? Sure. Don't worry about the user ID for now. Just fill out a couple of these, and you can see how easy Airtable is to work with, just like you would almost like an Excel sheet from Microsoft. All right, so we've got some dummy data in there. That's really great. Now, the 3 things that we're going to need to get from Airtable here in a second are 1, the table name, the API key, and then the ID of the actual base that we're working with. So what I usually search for is just Airtable API, and this will help you get to this page. So this is airtable.com/API. And then you scroll down and find your base. In this case, it's to do app. And when we click on that, now we get lots of documentation for this, including the ID of the base here. And then we already know our table name, which we named to do. And if we scroll down, we can see that listed over here. There's our to do table. So that's the table name, and the base ID is here. And then you can also click show your API key. And if you come down to the examples down here, it will actually show your API key. So you'll want to check that box, copy that API key as well. And notice that for initializing this Airtable package, we're going to need that API key, the base ID, as well as the table name that we want to use. So this is where we're going to use environment variables inside of Next.js. So inside of the root directory, create a .env file. And I'm going to show you on the screen now all of the things that we will need. So there's 3 different credentials for Airtable. There's 4 different credentials for Auth0 when we get to that part. So you can go ahead and type all of these out. And what I need you to do is go ahead and fill in your Airtable API key, your base ID, and your table name, and make sure that those things are ready. So I'll show you one more time how to get those pieces. So I'm going to grab my base ID from here. This is inside of the to do app base documentation. There's the base. And then my to do is the table name. And then you can grab your API key by clicking this show API key and then coming down to one of these functions, and you'll see the API key typed into here. I'm going to go ahead and paste mine in, and then we'll keep moving. And that's all you need to do to get environment variables set up inside of Next.js is add that .env file add your credentials there, and then Next.js will pull them in automatically. Now we'll see how to reference those in the next video where we'll actually set up our Airtable SDK and start to interact with our data. But for now, that's all we need to do. Now, one last thing that you should keep in mind is that your .env file should be ignored from being checked into source control. So you'll want to add the .env to your .getignore to make sure none of your private credentials get checked into your source control. Other than that, you should be good to go.